want to tell you, a high school student, a university student, whether you're a professional in the middle of your life or whether you're older than that, it does not matter.
Depression and most mental illnesses rob us of our self-esteem and our confidence. And that's the one thing that people don't often talk about, because everybody wants to think that you want people to think that, hey, you know, I got everything under control. I'm cool. I'm not nervous. I'm this, I'm that. So we all walk around with this swagger. Very seldom do we hear people say, you know what? When I'm struggling, I do not believe in myself. Point number two, besides the fact that we lose self-esteem when we suffer from a mental health issue, we all do the same thing. We wear the mask. And it is so incredibly frightening when you realize that the people around you, the person that's sleeping beside you, the person that's down the hall, at your dinner table, wherever you are, that person is only showing you what that person wants you to see. So I could be up here on a bad day and you'd think, hey, what's that guy talking about with his mental health issue? Man, that guy doesn't seem to have that at all. He's not depressed. We wear the mask. We show you what we think you want to see. I have suffered from a mental health issue for 18 years. I've suffered from anxiety most of my life. But 18 years ago, I had a major fall into the hole that I would refer to as depression. That deep, dark hole, when you look up, you can't see anything. And you can't imagine any possibility that you could make it up there. To me, the hole was, if you look up at the ceiling, at the top there, could I climb up there? No. If you told me the only way I could survive was to go up there, I would think I'm dead. And that's what I thought 18 years ago. I thought I was dead. I thought my life was over. Because in a lot of ways, my life was over. Because a day spent severely depressed is no better than a day that you are dead. The only difference is that you can come back from a bad day. So 18 years ago, I get hit by this thing. But it doesn't hit me like bam, like that. Depression is more the cumulative effect of little changes. So for me, it was like a little tap on the arm that I didn't even know was happening. A little tap on the arm. And if you do this enough times, you will bruise yourself. And after a couple of days of doing this, it'll start to hurt. I mean, it's not really realistic. I mean, you'd have to have other problems going on if you're doing this for 2 straight days. But the point is, you don't notice one tap, but you notice 1,000 taps. It's like you're in the bath and the water is warm and it feels good. And you think, wow, the water's warm. It feels good. I'm not a bath guy, by the way, just so you know. I'm not. So I don't want to be perceived as being a bath guy, but I have taken baths before. And the water, all of a sudden, you feel it and you think, it's kind of cool. What happened? You didn't notice it changing. You noticed the cumulative effect of tiny, tiny changes. And that is depression. One day I woke up and said, oh my gosh, I'm thinking back. What happened to me? The person I was is gone. The person I am, I don't want to be. That's what depression did to me. It took me, Michael, and replaced me with me, Michael. And I hated that person. I hated that person because that person could experience no joy. That person had no belief in himself. That person, all the things that Michael wanted to be, wanted to do with his life, that person couldn't be. And that is at the heart of mental health issues. That is at the heart of depression. It robs you of who you are and replaces you with someone else. And the worst thing about it is, it makes you feel like it's your fault. So now you've fallen into this hole. And I'm in this hole and I'm looking up and I'm thinking, how the hell am I going to get out of this hole? There's no way I can climb up there. And worst of all, this is my fault. I put myself into this hole. And even worse than that, it's my fault that I can't climb up. That's what depression is. It's this feeling of being totally lost, having lost yourself and blaming yourself for it. So my name is Michael Lansford. I suffer from a mental health issue, depression, anxiety. You could throw a couple of others on, but for me, it's mostly depression with a little bit of anxiety. I have suffered this for 18 years. I am on medication today. I will be on medication tomorrow, and I will be on medication the rest of my life. Those are words that you seldom hear people say in front of a crowd. And that is one of the reasons why I want to be here tonight. Because I want to say it. I want to say it a few times. I want to show you that I'm not ashamed. I'm not embarrassed. I am not weak. And if we as a society could believe that,
If everyone thought, mental health issues are exactly like physical issues, like the difference between Parkinson's and depression is we call Parkinson's a brain disease and we call depression a mental illness. Why is that? I got a buddy, he lives in Niagara Falls, Steve Lutzing, played in the NHL, coached the Tampa Bay Lightning. He has Parkinson's. He has a brain disease, but I got a mental illness. I want a brain disease. I don't want a mental illness because you don't know what a mental illness is. I don't know what a mental illness is. So I think as a world, as a society, if we could all do simply this, I'm not ashamed of it, I'm not embarrassed by it, and you know what? I'm kind of proud of the fact that I'm willing to get up here and tell you about that.
If we could do that, then we would all go for help. Then we would all get out of the hole, or at least we would have the best possibility of getting out of the hole. How many of you struggle with a mental health issue like I'm talking? Whoa, that was like, people usually this is the way it is. Hands up, like really slowly, like looking around. So let me ask again, how many of you struggle with a mental health issue like I do? Well, this is the most honest room that I've ever been in front of, and it does my heart good. All I want from people who say, hey, what can I do for you, Michael? I know that at times you have really struggled. What can I do when you're in that position? Really what I want is I just want you to say, I don't understand what that's like, and therefore I won't propose to understand, and I won't make suggestions based on my own reality. That, for me, when people say, as a caregiver, what can I give to someone who's struggling? That's the biggest thing, is the understanding that we don't speak the same language, and there is a barrier that exists between us that will never come down. How many of you either suffer from or care about someone who suffers from a mental health issue? Pretty much everybody in the room. What other health issue would there be that would be that widespread, that would still be under the table, that we would still, as a society, know that more than half the people that suffer from the illness that I suffer from, and many of you suffer from, will never tell anyone about it, will not go for help, will not share with their family. They will live in pain and suffer. My words to you are, fight for your happiness. Brain disease, thank you. Brain disease is not often easily treated. Let me tell you the story of how my life got changed, because it was 2008. I had my last fall into this really deep, dark hole of depression. And I can remember being in the Marriott Hotel, room 521, sitting on the edge of the bed at 4 a.m. in the morning and thinking, I am in so much pain that I don't want to live. Now, there's a difference. I was not contemplating taking my own life because I'd been through this before. I had suffered that deeply and had been brought back. Now, I lost confidence that I'd be brought back, which is part of the illness. You always think, well, this time it's not going to help, or I'm going to be the one of the ones that won't. It makes you very pessimistic. But I remember sitting on the edge of the bed thinking, this pain is terrible. But I never talked about it publicly. Everybody in my life knew. My family knew, my friends knew, people at work knew, but I never talked about it on TV. I never used the platforms that I have to be able to talk about it. And in 2009, we had a guest on the show who was a former Montreal Canadian. Anyone familiar with the name Stéphane Richer? So Stéphane Richer was a guest on Off the Record. I never met him before. We had a chat outside our green room. I said, look, Stéphane, I've never met you before. You don't owe me anything. But I know that in the 1990s, you suffered from depression. And I'd like to ask you, if you're okay, how you're doing. And he thought about it. And I'm going to pause now because this pause and this whole scenario changed my life. I said to him, well, if it make you more comfortable, when I ask you, I'll share with the fact that I too have struggled. Okay, we went on the air, we talked for maybe 90 seconds tops. Maybe it was less than that. The next day, I start getting emails. And the emails say essentially the same thing. Michael, I'm going to tell you something I've never told anyone before. I've been suffering from depression or anxiety or undiagnosed something for 6 months or a year or 5 years or 10 years. And one person sent me this message that said, I've suffered all my life, and my dad suffered all his life, but never told anyone. But I'm telling you because I saw you on television talking about your own struggles. And you didn't seem ashamed, and Stéphane Richer was talking about his problems. He didn't seem embarrassed, and he sure as hell didn't seem weak. So now I have the confidence to share this with you.
So I have a number of different roles in my life.